Hello everyone, welcome back to YK Reviews. For today's video, it's going to be all about Black Panther Wakanda Forever. This is going to be a spoiler review of the movie, so let's get into it here. So with Black Panther 2, the sequel to the original Black Panther movie, this is directed by Ryan Coogler, and obviously they were dealt with such a bad hand with the tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman, T'Challa, the script already written, having to rewrite everything, not even knowing if the movie would take place. So going into this movie, like after watching the trailer, knowing how emotional it's going to be, I'm going to say this right now, I feel like they did a really fantastic job with this movie. For me, I very much enjoyed this movie. I had a really good time with this movie. I'm not ashamed to say it, did shed a few tears during this movie, but overall, Ryan Coogler, the director, did a really phenomenal job with this movie, and I've got to give high praise to Ryan Coogler for the movie. And with like the movie in itself, like the opening sequences, like you've got Shuri trying to replicate the herb, basically informing us that T'Challa is dying of like an illness. She's trying to like replicate the herb, trying to like save his life, and that opening sequences, finding out that she couldn't do it, that funeral sequences, which you saw some of it in the trailer, and then going from that to the title sequences of like the Marvel Studio title sequences, but with no music, no nothing. It was just pure silence, which I really thought was like a really nice touch, and just you really get to like feel the emotions, feel that the pain that the whole cast and crew are going through. So the whole opening sequences was very strong and very emotional, so I really like that whole opening sequences there. And when it comes to like most of the cast too, is that like you've got Ramonda, who is T'Challa's mum, Shuri's mum, played by Angelabassett. I thought she was phenomenal in this movie. She did such a fantastic job with the way she portrayed her emotions. Like there was one point she was giving this speech to Okoye about how she's lost everything, and you can just feel that emotion and feel the passion in her speech. I really enjoyed like her performances, and I know even some are saying Oscar worthy performances, and I tend to agree with them. Like she was really strong in this movie. Her interactions with Shuri as well, like in one particular scene when they're sitting in the fireplace, she's telling Shuri to burn her funeral outfit. Just really powerful like dialogues between one another. And then, as I mentioned, this is like a spoiler review. When she died in the movie, I just found that shocking. Like to have like T'Challa, to have T'Chaka, and now to have Ramonda in the movie die because of Namor, that took me away. Like I was completely baffled, and her funeral as well, like just really emotional, but her performance overall was just amazing, and it was a really standout, along with the whole cast too, because you've got like Okoye and what she was doing throughout the movie when she was with Shuri and looking after or trying to take Riri Williams to like Wakanda, and like her fight scenes as well was really good, really powerful. I like her little arc she had with one of the Talakan warriors throughout the movie. But then like my only nitpick with that is that when she wasn't in the movie, you can kind of feel it, like they didn't use her as much. She was sort of in the first act, and in the third act wasn't utilized in the second act. But because basically Ramonda had this little back and forth with her losing Shuri basically during the battle when they were capturing Riri Williams, it sort of like took her out. But I wish they did explore her more. But like for example, like even her, like she really like had a powerful moments in the movie. Her and Nakia as well, like Nakia, who's T'Challa's like love interest, and we find out in the post-credit scene, which I'll dive into later on. Even her performances too, like I found it very powerful. Like the reasoning as to like why she left Wakanda was perfectly well written, and they just had like really powerful moments, really powerful like scenes with one another. I really thought she was like a strong character too, with the way she was able to find Shuri in like Talokan. And like that's the nitpicks I have like here and there, because when it comes to like Okoye, when it comes to even M'Baku too, he wasn't enough in the movie. Like when he was a standout character. His lines were hilarious. Like him and Okoye had like really funny dialect. They had like good interactions between one another, and like their one-liners too throughout the movies were pretty funny. And this is what I enjoyed about this movie in particular, is that like the timing for like the comedy was perfect. It wasn't oversaturated like certain other movies in phase 4. The seriousness, the emotional parts were well balanced, along with like the comedy that was well balanced. And with M'Baku as well, similar with Okoye, he wasn't enough in the movie, but when he was in the movie, he was such a standout character. And I'm not gonna lie, when the funeral scenes, when they were burying Ramanda, his back and forth with Shuri, like his scene with Shuri and like the dialogue that they had with one another, it did break me, because when he's telling Shuri that she's not a child anymore, that she's lost too much, just really tugged at your heartstrings and was like a stab in the heart for me. Like had I had like a few tears coming down when it comes to like those particular scenes. And even like once Shuri became the Black Panther in the movie and she wanted to go to war, her with M'Baku, like they just had like such powerful scenes with one another, and Ryan Coogler did that fantastically well. The dialogue and the speeches and the interaction with each other and some of the cast was so well written that you feel their emotion, because the emotion is coming from real life events along with like the emotions from the movie. So they just did such a fantastic job, and M'Baku really nailed the lines that he had when it came to Shuri. And then when it comes to also Riri Williams, like she wasn't in the movie as much as I thought she was going to be, because like from the trailers that I saw, I'll be honest, I didn't try to watch too much trailers. I didn't, because nowadays everything gets spoiled in the trailers. But like from the trailers I did see, I thought she was going to be a lot more of a prominent role. She is the reason why like people like outside of Wakanda are searching for vibranium. She developed this machine where it can detect vibranium, and so she's the reason why they were able to find vibranium undersea, and that's how the Talokans were found out. So Namor basically wants to kill her, and we'll get to the plot of all of that in a bit. But like her scenes, I believe, if I'm counting off the top of my head, like 5-6 scenes that she was there, and the most prominent scenes was when she was first introduced, when Shuri and Okoye go and like after her and try to convince her to come to Wakanda. That was a really great sequences, and like her using the Iron Man suit, her Mark 1 suit was really fantastic. And like you kind of get glimpses of like Iron Man when she's like going up all the way high, oxygen levels dropping, hints of like Iron Man in his earlier movies. So I thought it was done a fantastic job there. And the part where like Ramanda died, when like she was with Ramanda when she died, like because Ramanda saved her life, and like the guilt that she was feeling at the time, her interactions with Shuri were really well balanced and really well placed. And then like once she became Iron Man, like once she developed her suits using like the Wakanda technology, I thought she did a really good job during the whole battle scene, the third act, the final act. I thought it was a really well balanced character. And I'll be honest, before this movie, my hopes and my expectations, excitement levels for her Ironheart TV series wasn't as high. But after watching her here, I'm pretty excited to see like what they're going to do with her in the TV series. So I'm excited now. Like my excitement level did increase after watching her performances. I'm curious to see now what she's going to do in the Ironheart Disney Plus series. So I feel like they did a good job with that. And then when it comes to Namor or Namor in the movie, like some of them are calling him Namor, some of them are calling him Namor. I know that his origins are completely different from like what they are in the comics. This is based on like Aztec, based on like Mayan culture and that kind of stuff. They wanted to go with that route to avoid comparisons to Aquaman. I'll be completely honest, I really loved Namor in this movie. He was a fantastic villain. But for me, I feel like Killmonger was a slightly stronger villain versus him. But his intensity, his fierceness, his strength, his presence overall were just really well balanced and really well directed and written. He was a fantastic villain, I have to say that. I'll be honest though, because like a lot of like nitpicks I had as well is that like because the runtime is 2 hours and 40 plus minutes, there was certain aspects in the second act. Like I liked how they explained a little bit of his story. I'm not gonna lie, I was expecting the X-Men animated series theme when he confessed that he is a mutant. But that aside, I really liked his backstory. I just felt like they explained a bit too much for me, not in like a negative way, but because the movie just dragged on a little bit during that second act, and that little like particular scenes there just kind of like dragged the movie out ever so slightly and just took me out ever so slightly when it comes to that particular scene. But when it comes to like Namor in itself, he was a fantastic villain. I really liked his presence. I liked his like the way like the actor was like displaying Namor, his like speeches. You could understand what he was saying, you could feel his anger, and he wasn't coming from like a bad place, but just like his interactions. Because even in one particular scene where he comes out of the water and meets like Ramonda and Shuri, just not threatening them but like telling them like what they need to do, and once he like does get into like the battlefield, his little like wings on his ankles, and like how he's like bouncing around, his quickness and his speed. And then once he does finally land that blow, when he does throw the bomb to like blow up the palace and eventually kill Ramonda, just really fantastic. I really liked his portrayal as Namor no more, and I'm really excited to see what they're gonna do in the future with him. I cannot wait to see that. But once again, like the little nitpicks that I have with that, because when you're gonna compare it to the first movie, obviously, and so I feel like Killmonger was like a stronger villain versus Namor, but Namor was still a great villain nonetheless. And also, speaking of Killmonger, Michael B. Jordan appearing as like the ancestral plane, I really liked what they did with that, convincing Shuri to take revenge, act on vengeance, not going like the safe route that T'Challa would have done, but going on like the Killmonger route with Shuri. I really like that line too, because with Shuri, I'll admit, I feel like she did a fantastic job with this movie. She's like the main lead of the movie, the main character now, and you kind of like are hesitant because she's sort of like the sidekick in the first movie, but with this one she really carried the weight of this movie on her back. The scenes that she had, like the funeral scenes as I mentioned earlier, really did a fantastic job with that. Her emotions, her portrayal, her anger in the third act, her like intelligence, just all around a fantastic character. And for me, when she did become the Black Panther, and her little fight scenes in the third act was fantastically done. I really enjoyed like what she did throughout the whole movie. I really liked her role and how she became Black Panther, and like her being consumed by vengeance. It was sort of like a hint towards like the Civil War movie, with T'Challa mentioning how vengeance has consumed them, even throwing that line to Namor at the end where vengeance has consumed the both of them. Really like little like nods to like back there to T'Challa. But overall I feel like Shuri really did a fantastic job, and like you can really feel her emotions, and what she did throughout the movie I feel like was well done, and like I gotta give high praise to Shuri for that. And then when it comes to like the actual plot, the storyline, when it comes to like the build up, because you've got the outside world taking vibranium, trying to find vibranium, this leading to Talokan being discovered, Namor wanting the Wakandans to help them, but they refuse. And just like the whole battle scenes that they had, like when Namor and his people invaded Wakanda, just the scenes there, the visuals, the battle scenes, just really well done. I really like the fight scenes too. Like the Talokans were just so powerful, and their maneuvering was really well placed, and just really exciting, great action scenes. And then also when it comes to like the third act too, like that ship scene with them coming out the water, the fight scenes between the Wakandans and the Talokans, just brilliant action scenes all around. I really enjoyed that. The fight scenes, the action scenes, just the battle scenes was really well placed and really well choreographed. So I really enjoyed that. Like the overall, the movie in itself, like the storyline with the Wakandans versus the Talokans, I really loved, and I loved the fight scenes with them, especially when it comes to like Namor versus Shuri. I was a little bit hesitant, I'll be completely honest, because Shuri hasn't got like much experience when it comes to like hand-to-hand combat, but they did it very well. Like they really used like her intelligence and her like technology versus Namor, and like how she was able to like weaken him. I thought was very fantastic, and overall the plot just was really well done. And for me, like as I mentioned, like the little nitpicks I had for the second act and all that kind of stuff, my biggest gripe I have with the movie in itself was like the scenes with Val, who you've seen her in like A Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You've also seen her in like the post-credit scenes. Off the top of my head, I can't remember the post-credit scenes that she did appear other than Falcon and Winter Soldier, but I just felt like her subplot was very out of place, and I just felt like it was more of like them using in the storyline sense to build up something else, which I feel like they could have just done in a different type of show or different type of movie. But like her scenes with Ross and like the CIA and all that kind of stuff just really felt out of place for me. So I wasn't like too invested in that for me. But like that's like the biggest nitgrit picky thing that I have when it comes to overall of the movie. But in terms of overall of this movie in itself, I loved this movie. It's definitely one of the better movies in Phase 4. They did a really fantastic job with this despite the circumstance. I cannot recommend this movie enough. This was such a fantastic movie, a very emotional movie, and a well written, well choreographed, well directed movie overall. So for me, it's definitely up there as one of the best movies of Phase 4. I'll be honest, it's not as good as like the original Black Panther movie, but it's definitely up there in the top tier movies. So I highly recommend this. If you've seen it, I would honestly rewatch it again as much as you can, because it is got that rewatchable factor. So definitely, if you haven't seen the movie, try watching the movie if you can. But overall, a fantastic end to Phase 4, a fantastic movie, and a fantastic way to like pass the baton to Shuri as Black Panther, closing the chapter of T'Challa. Just overall great. And even that post-credit scene, Nakia revealing that she's got a son with T'Challa, building up that where he could become the future Black Panther, I really enjoyed and was really excited. I'll be completely honest, I was expecting some like post-credit scenes regarding Doctor Doom, but not overly fussed about that. But overall, yeah, really fantastic movie, really enjoyable. If you've seen the movie, let me know down in the comment section below what you thought about it, if you enjoyed it, if you liked it. Be honest, did you tear up in the movie? Let me know down in the comment section below. But these are my thoughts and my opinions of the movie in itself. Thank you so much for watching, thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, like button, hit that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any future videos. This is YK Review, so thank you so much for watching. Peace.